So, it's time to have a look at the Hardline single player. Now this is something that most Battlefield players don't really look at when they come to a Battlefield title. The campaign is just sort of a side asset from what is always a really enjoyable multiplayer. But I think in Battlefield Hardline that the single player is just as important as the multiplayer. I'm going to try and explain why. I had some hands-on time to play the single player recently when I flew over to California to the EA Redwood Shores headquarters to play the game, and I got a chance to speak to Zach Wilson, who's the level designer for the single player. So I have a lot of information that I can share, a lot of experiences that I can tell you about, to maybe just try and give you a little bit of an insight into how this campaign's going to work and some of the hard work that has actually gone into it. So the first thing that I should probably tell you about this campaign that you're going to end up playing, if you decide to play it, you don't have to, but I think it's probably worth doing, is that it's not your on-the-rails first-person shooter campaign that you come to expect from the Battlefield franchise. Well, if you played BF3 and BF4's campaign and you managed to crawl your way through that, then congratulations to you, but it's not like either of those. It is a truly visceral single player. It's got its own mind, it's got its own story. You don't have to follow a track. You can make decisions that will benefit you, you can make decisions that won't benefit you. You can choose one path, you can come back and start again, and you can mix them all together and have a really good experience. In the background, you might notice a couple of times I'll use a non-lethal weapon to take down a player. You get awarded points for that. If you shoot players with a lethal weapon, like a revolver or an assault rifle, you won't get any points towards your total score for the campaign. That's something that I'm talking about. You can choose your own path, you can mix them together. Sometimes you might feel like tasering somebody in the back is a good idea, but sometimes you might find that spraying an MG down a corridor might be a little bit more beneficial to you. And as you're moving your way through the campaign, you will see a change in stance from going from playing the role of a police officer into moving to a more of a rogue sense and then moving on to the other side of the law. So even while you're playing different ways through the story, maybe blazing down a hallway with a machine gun, tasing somebody in the back, the story is changing at the same time. You're moving through I think it's a 3-year cycle, so between the first mission and the last mission I believe there's about 3 years worth of time that's actually passed, and there are 10 episodes within the single player, so there's a lot for you to sink your teeth into, which means behind that story a lot of effort has gone in there. Something else that I really noticed, and I spoke to Zach about this, in the Battlefield 4 campaign you knew the guy as Wrecker. He was the guy that always got his name shouted all the way through the campaign, but you never really had that emotional connection to the character you were playing. In Hardline, in the campaign, it couldn't be more different. Our protagonist, Nick Mendoza, is somebody that you're going to see the campaign through the eyes of pretty much the whole way along, but there is an emotional connection there. Those decisions that you're making during the campaign can sometimes affect what's going to happen later on in the mission. And it's things like that, those small little links, that make a massive difference. During the cutscenes you get to see all the players. There's a real sense of fear sometimes, a real sense of action, maybe some tenseness going on as well. And overall, being able to see the protagonist and being able to relate to him and connect to him that little bit more really does make it a much more immersive experience than I was expecting. For those looking at this footage in the background and maybe wondering if it is for them, I can assure you that it does feel like Battlefield. I think a lot of people are very hesitant at looking at Battlefield Hardline and saying that it isn't really a Battlefield game. Even within the campaign, you can easily tell that this is a Battlefield title. It feels very similar to something that we've played before, all the way through the Frostbite iterations of Battlefield, starting back with 1943 on the console, all the way through to Battlefield 4 now. That feeling that's been there ever since is still there within Hardline. You get that all-out action experience, the gunplay that you're expecting, the recoil, the realism that they're trying to portray is still there. So anybody that's thinking that Hardline may not be for them, I would encourage you to give it a try. I've said a lot of positive things. I do want to mention a couple of negative things as well. There are some things that you might see in the gameplay, such as me throwing a med pack down on the floor, that don't really make a huge amount of sense to me. This is something that we highlighted to the developers whilst we were playing the single player, and we did offer some solutions. So things like that med pack, I'll take that as an example. It's exactly the same med pack that you get in the multiplayer, which is a little bit jarring, kind of breaks the immersive experience a little bit. So rather than throwing down a med pack, maybe you could have the option to bandage yourself or have an animation where you're bandaging yourself, much like they have in Far Cry 4. Or maybe where there's like a first aid kit that's on the wall, part of the map itself, but you could run up to it and regain your health again so you can go back around the corner and start shooting people if you want to. Those kind of things where it breaks the immersion of something that I think they should maybe try and work out towards the end of what they've got left in terms of development. They haven't got a lot of time, let's put it that way. We're looking still maybe saying for like 5 or 6 months, but that's not a lot of time in terms of game development. They've been making this thing for 3 years, let's remember. So overall, I really enjoyed my time playing the single player. I had some really good experiences. I had some great chats with the developers as well. I want to say thank you to Visceral for letting me fly out there and play the single player. I really, really did enjoy it. And for those of you that are thinking, well, single player, Battlefield doesn't really go together, I genuinely think this is a good campaign. And if you're going to invest time into it, I think you'll be rewarded. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give me a thumbs up and leave some comments down below today. Let me know what you think about the single player too. But thank you very much for watching. My name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.